Fashion 1983 series. We're at the third part now, where NEC and Sega are both locked in a competition with the TurboGrafx 16 and the Sega Master System to try and prove which is the better console. But whether anyone prefers either is really down to a matter of preference due to the similarity of the games. Alex Kidd and Mario Bros. Both platformers, Zelda and Phantasy Star both RPGs, Blazing Lasers and Afterburner are both arcade shooters, and Splatterhouse and Altered Beast are both arcade beat-em-ups. But there's a third company. Remember Atari and the Fail 5200? Yeah, well they went straight to R&D and developed the Atari Panther. It's not ready to be released yet, and it may never be ready to be released. For one simple fact, there's a 64-bit console in the making, and it's being made a lot faster than this 32-bit console. So the Atari Panther may never see the light of day. But for now, Atari are going to keep their lips shut. They can't release either console until much later in the industry. So we're going to go back to NEC and Sega, and NEC's argument against Sega comes down to the simple fact that they have better graphics. But Sega are the kings of negative advertising, and so NEC have just kicked the hornet's nest, and this will trigger the release of the Sega Mega Drive, one of the greatest consoles of all time in our real events. And what made this console so great was the marketing. It sold the system incredibly well, thanks to negative ads like this, or more famously, ads like this.
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Columns free.
Genesis does.
What Nintendo?
So yeah, I hope you see what I mean. That was a pretty good ad, although the 90s were fairly simple times for gamers. Looking at the hardware specs, there's not really a lot to separate the two. I mean, aside from the 8-bit CPU of the TurboGrafx being definitely weaker to the Motorola 68000 16-bit processor of the Mega Drive, you really can't say a whole lot that's different between the two consoles. Now, here's a really important question. Where do all the developers go? Do they go to the more powerful Mega Drive, or the more established TurboGrafx 16? My guess is that different versions of different games will be released for either console. While the TurboGrafx might get Castlevania 4 on Mega Man X, Castlevania Bloodlines and Mega Man The Wily Wars will get released on the Mega Drive. Until that is, a CD-based add-on is being released for the TurboGrafx 16. Yeah, CDs were a format that were released just months before. Developed by Philips, short for compact disc, and so we get the TurboGrafx CD. And CDs definitely have a few advantages over cartridges. For instance, they have more memory, they have better sound capabilities, and they're much easier to develop for than cartridges. With these advantages, you think NEC have the argument in their bag, but they don't. In fact, this is going to be more of a problem than anything. For a start, the price is incredibly high. Aside from the $200 that you have to pay to get a TurboGrafx, you have to pay an extra $400 to get the TurboGrafx CD. That's right, an add-on that costs more than the console itself. I know. This amounts to a grand total of $599 US, and no one has that kind of money. Especially compared to the $189 you need for the Sega Mega Drive. But if you think there's one thing that the CD-based add-on could do better than the cartridge-based Mega Drive, it is definitely graphics. But take a look. Take a look at Fighting Street on the TurboGrafx CD and compare it to Street Fighter 2 on the Mega Drive, or compare Prince of Persia to the Mega Drive version. I think it's very clear which one has the superior graphics. And this is pretty shocking. And Sega can now trash talk this argument, but they can't trash talk CDs, because after seeing the TurboGrafx CD, they know that the CD has some potential, and thus they're going to want their own. So they go to a Japanese electronics company called Sony, and have Sony make a CD-based add-on for the Mega Drive. This is the Sega CD, and it was a moderate success in our real events. But is it going to be successful in our altered events? And this is where there's going to be someone else to come along. Someone else who's going to dominate the industry. A pretty big shock for anyone who knows what happens in the real events. Because this console in the real events was such a titanic failure. But now in our altered events, it has experience behind it. and the people behind it can make games for this console that might sell it really well. This console might be the one to utilize the full power of the CD for the first time. This console is the Philips CDI. Yeah, I know, big shock. How could such a colossal failure ever do anything good in any set of alternate events? If you're wondering what I'm talking about, did you ever see YouTube boops, you know, clips like this?
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
My boy.
Yeah. So how is Magnavox going to make this system a success? Well, first of all, Magnavox already has a well-established reputation with the Odyssey 2. They have a franchise that people remember, such as Berserk, Space Invaders, and Pac-Man. That's going to win over a lot of older fans. Another thing is that Magnavox know how to price the system. Philips didn't know how to price the system and priced it so high that it alienated consumers. But now that the price is low enough, Magnavox know what to do, and thus people will have a reason to buy it. It might be more expensive, but what they're offering is definitely worth the high price. And another thing is the CD technology. It's going to attract third-party developers. Now, Magnavox can not only compete in the industry, but they are now the top dog. So, now Philips are back on top after being off the throne for so many years. Can anyone dethrone them? What about Sega? What happens to them? How about Nintendo? Where do they go after failing with NEC and the TurboGrafx? Are there any other consoles in the future that deserve a fighting chance? Are there any more deals that could be struck in the future? What is the next level for video games? Will Atari be able to replicate Philips' success in the video game industry? Find out next time. I've been the man with a plan. Thank you for watching my videos.